None of us are immune to the nostalgia bomb, and I was recently a victim of it when I found out that one of my favorite sci fi series was getting a reboot, Babylon 5. Even though the graphics are pretty dated, the story is so tightly put together that I just had to do a small homage to it, and I decided to do the Battle of Mars. Now, diehard fans, please don't hit me too hard. I know the ships aren't entirely accurate, but I had to take artistic liberties. Well, first off, if we're gonna do Battle of Mars, we have to make Mars. So take a little Christmas bauble, cut it down, sand it. Got to make sure that that paint is gonna be able to stick onto it, no problems. Beautiful. Then we got all of our ships nicely 3D printed. A couple of them needed some work. They didn't scale entirely well. So a little bit of green stuff patching here and there, and a little bit of plastic art on some of them, but nothing too awful, thank goodness. And a couple just didn't want to come off the supports, so a little bit of repair on the smaller ones. This one was probably the worst. Milliput, sanding it down, getting it nice and smooth. Primer, yup. And then the faithful Drybrush. These are going to be part of a big diorama, so they didn't need super duper attention, so we went with gray, and then light gray, and lighter gray, and a little bit of battle damage, a little bit of metal showing through. And then the Minbari ships get a brighter shade of blue-white. And wanted to have different tonal variations, so the antagonists get red, protagonists get blue. Yeah, nothing I spent a ton of time on, just picking out a few details here and there just to add a little bit of variation between them. If you all like this Mars theme, definitely go check out Mini Mishaps and Jagelsdorf Creates channels. They collaborated with this Mars theme with me. Uh, Brilliant, wonderful channels, great creators. Their links are down in the description below. And then all the fighters were painted the same way, red or blue. The stripe, the little bits on the engines, and then the engines themselves. Just got little boops of paint right on the backs. The Minbari, I don't know, I kind of had different ideas of how I wanted to do it, but looking at all the pictures of the ship, I just started with a blue, overlaid it with a purple. Still wasn't quite great. So I ended up coming in with a very, almost like a fat glaze or a wash of purple to break everything up. And then on to Mars, just got cheap craft paint, big, nice, soft brush, and did red to orange to a yellow ochre, and just blended to taste, really. And then to build the diorama, went with just cheap dollar store foam core. They didn't have black, so I had to go with white just to get some poster board on top. Thought about painting it. I did paint the outside, but the inside I wanted more uniform, so that's why I went with the poster board and splattered some white stars on. Set Mars in, and then poke some holes because I wanted to add some cheap little LEDs. Got some blue, got some white, held them in with hot glue. The back of this thing looks like hot garbage, but you know, ideally you'll never see the back of this. And then drilled holes in the back to mount all of the ships on. A little bit of 20 gauge wire that I also painted black. The smaller ones got some little brass wire since they weren't quite as heavy. Hot glued them to stay in the back and started laying out my Battle of Mars. And I wanted to add a tiny touch of realism, so I added a bit of atmosphere around it with some oil paints. And there we go. We got all of our forces arrayed against each other. Pretty happy with how this turned out. So if you liked how it turned out, complete the ritual of YouTube, appease the small gods of the algorithm, do the like, the subscribe, all that good stuff. I'll catch you on the next one.